Welcome everybody to anticipated releases for the month of August, I think comes after July. My name is Nick.
I'm Mike.
And so there's a couple of actually, we usually talk about how there's not many exciting games that we're going to be talking about. And the trend kind of continues, but there's a couple diamonds in the rough that we feel like it's a really cool thing, or really cool stuff that's happening that we want to tell you guys about. So Mike is going to start us off with some excitement that he has for a game, right?
Of course, dude, because why would I talk about anything I don't care about? My first game is a game I don't really care about. Honestly, the reason I mentioned...
You're going to say Madden.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah, dude. Madden's coming out this month. And for those of you that don't know, there's a brand new updated coaching experience where you get to hire your own offensive and defensive coordinators. Buy it now for $60, or if you want the special Hall of Fame edition, which I'm sure they have, for like $3,000. Anyway.
Oh my gosh, you're making me find the trailer for this too. Damn it.
No, so my first game for real is it's a game called Foreclosed. Because why not stick with the cyberpunk theme that I feel like that something in that genre has come out every single month, it feels like. Foreclosed does look a little different, though. I feel like I say that every time, like I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. But I actually do like the comic book style. For anyone that's seen this, or I don't know what's on the screen right now, but I'm sure it'll show up eventually if it's not there now. This game has periodic moments where it actually shows itself in sort of a graphic novel or comic book style. But it's cool because there's actually times you actually play the game while it's like that. So it's not just reserved for cutscenes. It has a really cool way of like transitioning between the different types of gameplay elements, when you're just having the full screen typical action game, to like more of the comic book, I guess quick time event type of gameplay. It does a good job of kind of balancing itself back and forth, which I think is really, really cool. It definitely does a good job of like mixing those two genres that are typically very different in terms of graphic novel and adventure action game. And speaking of action, this is definitely an action shooter. So it definitely seems like it is more in line with, I guess, what Cyberpunk is without the RPG elements, as opposed to, I don't even remember what it's called, the last Cyberpunk game I talked about. This one is definitely more of an action designed game. It does have an RPG skill system, so at least in the vein of like leveling up your character and changing weapons and customization, it's definitely there. I don't think, at least from what I've seen, that it's RPG-esque the way Cyberpunk is, where it's like open world exploration, side quests. It might be. I don't want to say for sure it isn't, but at least it's definitely not to that scale. But it does look really, really cool. What was that?
I don't think anything's to that scale, though, honestly. That game is massive.
Oh my god, yeah, dude. That game was huge.
Cyberpunk 2077, not the one we're talking about this.
For sure. Yeah, no, Cyberpunk was huge. So this does feel like a smaller version of it, which is cool still. And like I said, I think this game has some unique quirks to it that I think would make it fun. So if you're interested in those kind of cyberpunk styles, and you're also kind of a comic book fan, or really just looking for an action game to play, I think this one could be fun. It definitely looks like it does some interesting things, which is really cool to see.
So I'm going to be talking about my first game, and that's going to be Skatebird. And you heard that right, not skateboard, Skatebird. It is literally a skating game dedicated to you being a bird skating around normal everyday objects like your coffee table or your kitchen or just any place in your living room. And I shit you not, this game actually looks really, really fun. If you've ever played those games like Tony Hawk Pro Skater or like the Skate series, I guess to take a step back, if you know this, the skateboarding games, they were, in my opinion, like especially for me as a kid, really addicting. I adored the hell out of Tony Hawk's Pro Skaters 1, 2, and 3. So much so that me and my buddy Zach in grade school would play it almost nonstop. It was that and Super Smash Bros. Melee. But the skateboarding games kind of it was in the same vein as rhythm games. They got oversaturated. People were like, we don't really need another one. And they kind of ran out of ideas. And to be honest, Skateboard isn't doing anything new, which I think is fine, because the whole selling point is you're a bird that's skateboarding. That's awesome. But but in the same vein, it's really cool that the game designs their levels around normal everyday aesthetics. So it's not trying to create, like, in the original Tony Hawk Pro Skater, like, you're skating around a lot of famous cities, like Minneapolis and, like, San Francisco. Also, you have, like, just a normal warehouse as, like, your starting area. That warehouse is still iconic in my eyes. But This one is like those plastic chains that you would get from like the dollar store. You can grind on those. That cup that you left on your table after you got, I don't know, Popeyes yesterday, you can grind on that. You can do like an ollie off it or like trick off the side. All of this is actually like really creative when it comes down to it. I don't think it's going to be as in-depth with like the what is it, like the challenges that they have and whatnot, but it seems to have like a pretty funny story. Like you have random birds that are like, you have like a seagull that's saying like, this is the coolest guy that I know. He's studied like martial arts for years, and this guy comes up, goes, I heard there was snacks. Are there snacks here? It's like there's really like, the game doesn't take itself so seriously, but it does seem to at least have solid skating mechanics, which is really, really cool. So it's not trying to reinvent the wheel or revitalize the skating genre, and I don't think it really needs to. It's just supposed to be just a fun game that you kind of like sit down for a half hour or so and you play as a bird skateboarding. But I do think the novelty will definitely wear off if you try to play it for an extended period of time, but it does look like a really, really fun game just for a couple play sessions for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at pictures of it, and this looks like something special.
It looks like a game I would love playing. I'm actually planning on picking it up.
Oh,
but
God. Well, and I
don't know how much playtime I'll get out of it.
Well, I have to imagine it's going to be cheap. I hope. So this game looks like it's amazing.
It does. It does look very, very fun.
Oh, man.
Yeah, not much to say about it. It's just a skateboarding game where you get to play as a bird.
I'm into that. All right, so I'll jump into my second game. The second game I want to talk about is No More Heroes 3. I don't have a ton to say on the No More Heroes game. I personally never played one. I do know people that have tried these games out. And it's kind of funny, too, that these games are exclusively coming out to the Nintendo Switch. It's so funny that No More Heroes is a Nintendo exclusive game. I don't think it was before, was it? I think that was a new thing.
I don't think so. I thought Travis Touchdown was on Xbox consoles. I don't know for sure, though. I don't know for sure.
I'm fairly sure you are correct. Well, whatever. Well, yeah, I'm sure it is. Anyway, all right, at some point, I think it became, Nintendo exclusive. But regardless, it's funny, because this game is very violent and aggressive, and it's very, different than what you typically see from Nintendo exclusive games like Mario and Zelda. This one is very different. It kind of falls in line with more like Bayonetta, where it's a little grittier. This game has some really hilarious features. I'm sure you guys have seen it in the past, where you sit on a toilet to save your game. It's kind of like the classic thing from the first one. And kind of the whole thing is your guy is like a super assassin type character. Who's basically trying to like move up the leaderboard. And what's cool about this game is that this game goes to space, and it's like an intergalactic adventure where you're trying to take down like really bad alien enemies, I guess. So it's a crazy, wacky adventure. These games have always been crazy and wacky. So I'm excited to see kind of how this one comes out. This one definitely seems to be garnering more attention than they have in the past. I don't know if that's just because it's a Switch game now, and I don't know. It just feels like this a franchise kind of became a little bit bigger now than it was back when 2 released, or back when the original released. The main character's name is Travis, by the way, which is sick because we know a Travis in this channel.
We do.
We do. And so, I mean, in a nutshell, I don't have a ton to say about it because, like I said, it's not my type of thing. At least it hasn't been in the past. It is a heavy action game, so if you're interested in the gameplay on it, it is definitely a typical kind of action-adventure type game. So you have your basic, like, combo moves. You're punching, you're hitting, you're kicking. He has his, like, laser beam type sword. So, I mean, it's just a kind of a classic adventure with action, crazy combat. And so if that's something that interests you, it definitely has more of an adult type humor. So again, when I say Nintendo exclusive, don't think you're getting like some kid-friendly game, because it definitely is not. But it is definitely an over-the-top kind of crazy, funny adventure. If that's something people are interested in, I definitely think it's worth looking into. Definitely sort of a unique gameplay experience, to be sure.
Oh yeah, I've heard people, at least people, how do I usually relate this? It's one of those, I don't want to say it has a cult following because I don't know for sure, but it definitely has those fans that really, really like the series for sure. So it does have its, like, I don't even want to say, I guess diehard followers for sure, but I don't really hear the game discussed out of those kinds of circles. But it does have a very passionate fan base, which is always nice to see, because sometimes fan bases can change and they evolve and then they leave, like I did with some other series. But either way, it's nice to see people sticking with the games that they love. So good stuff there. Good stuff there. Trying to be positive. Anyway, So the game I'm going to talk about is actually one that I wasn't foreshadowing at all. Trust me on this. I loved this game. But we're going to be talking about Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. There's a couple of really cool things that are happening with Ghost of Tsushima. I think it's obvious that of the people in the GoldenDudez that have played the game, me, Mike, and Matt, we all fell in love with this game. All of us platinumed this game. I think Matt platinumed it. I'm pretty sure he did. I can ask him later.
Yeah.
But either way, we all really adored Ghost of Tsushima just as a whole. It had a really great storyline. We really liked the scenarios that was presented. We dedicated like a game breakdown to it as well. It's very clear that we really enjoyed this game. And what's nice about Director's Cut is it's coming with some things, but it also is locking certain things behind a paywall, which is where it's being met with a little bit of decisiveness. But I'll tell you about that. What's nice about it is that the Director's Cut would have DLC. And the DLC that it's including is called Iki Island, which is a completely different scenario. But if you're a history buff and you actually know about like the time period, I don't. I read this one up before when we were preparing for this. The neighboring island of Iki was actually invaded around the same time as Tsushima. So the way that Jin goes about this is that he hears rumors of a Mongol invasion, and so he has to go out and investigate it. But they didn't, and one of the things I do like about this situation and like how they've been revealing information about the Director's Cut is they haven't given much more besides that. Pretty much you're left in the dark saying like Jin has to leave Tsushima to go to a completely new island to figure out what's going on. And I think that's enough because when I was done with Ghost of Tsushima, I wanted to keep playing it. It was one of the very few games that I'm not a huge fan of New Game Plus, but it was almost pushing me into that area where I wanted to try New Game Plus, which is definitely saying something for me. Some of the things that's actually cool about it as well is there is some PS5 exclusive. It is going to be for PS4 and PS5, but PS5 will be able to get, I don't think it's always at 60 FPS, but it is targeting 4K resolution and 60 FPS, which there are games that have been doing that. A lot of Sony exclusive have been pushing for that as well. I believe that the remake of Ratchet & Clank that came out for the PlayStation Play at Home initiative was a game that got a free patch to do so. But I believe and this is where I might have to do a little bit of research, and there might be some text on the screen, but I believe to get that upgrade, and if you already have the original version, you still have to pay an extra $10 because the PS5 version of the Director's Cut is $70, the or I guess $69.99, but the PS4 version is Director's Cut is $60. Mm-hmm. You can get it, you can purchase it like normal DLC, which would be like a $20 upgrade. But if you try to upgrade, and this is where kind of the weirdness comes in, and there's always a lot of complications when it comes down to upgrading from PS4 to PS5. If you want to get the if you get the Director's Cut for PS4, you can upgrade to the Director's Cut for PS5 for an additional $10. Or if you have the original Ghost of Tsushima for PS4, you can upgrade to the Director's Cut for PS5 for an additional $30. And this is why I wanted to preface it by saying it gets a little divisive, because this kind of complication, first of all, it's just confusing. It's not a very easy thing to figure out. I actually had to write myself notes to make sure I told you the right stuff. But in that same vein, it's not a very easy thing to say that you already have the game on your PS4 and I want to play the DLC on PS5. That kind of $30 bump up is not very appealing for sure. And it's really for DLC and like an upgraded frame rate and resolution. Some people don't see that as really fair, especially when Sony's been giving it away for free for some of their games. So there's kind of a yin and yang, or like a pros and cons to it as well. I like the fact that they are going to be giving DLC for this game. I think it's very deserving for it. I think the way that I'm going to decide whether I get it is if I see the content is substantial enough. Because for me, Ghost of Tsushima was already an amazing experience for only $60. Mm-hmm. For $20 extra, considering what the base game had, I would be expecting a lot from the Iki Island DLC. But again, that's just my personal perspective. If you like Ghost of Tsushima, more power to you to get it. You might get pissed off at the price tag. I get it. I'm kind of there with you. But if there is a game that I think is 100% deserving of DLC, this is it. So there's my rant. Make your own judgment on it. I personally think that I agree the price tag is definitely steep. But if you think it looks cool and you think the content looks good, I would go for it.
Yeah, it's tough because, well, Final Fantasy VII Remake did the same thing. in that if you wanted to upgrade to the PS5 version, even if just the base game, it cost a little bit. And then if you wanted to upgrade for the Integrate, I don't remember if it was free or not. Point is,
Integrate was free.
Yeah, but you had to like pay a little extra to upgrade to PS5, and so it's like, oh, I get the new DLC for free, but well, no, you don't actually, because you got to upgrade to the PS5 version. So it's not the only game doing this. I feel like that's going to be a pretty commonplace thing. At least for games that are kind of doing the remaster to PS5, which is fine. I mean, I guess somewhat I understand. Games are seemingly going toward that $70 price tag, and so, I mean, to me, it's kind of, it's annoying, but to me, I don't see it as like a negative on the game or the company. I just feel like that's kind of a, a shitty thing that's going to be the norm. But, it's also just,
definitely...
I don't want to spend
Oh, sorry.
I don't want to spend the money, so that's it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it really depends on the value you think you're going to be getting from the game too. Because I do have a lot of faith when it comes down to a lot of like Nintendo games that I believe, like Nintendo games like the Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. I think that was definitely worth the $60 price tag. I thought Ghost of Tsushima and Horizon Zero Dawn were definitely worth the full price tag. Actually, I think I got Horizon on a discount. Sweet, but it really depends on if you find value in it. And personally, a lot of the new games that are coming out, especially like the sports releases, I know we joked about Madden. I'm never going to buy those full price right away. But hey, if you, and this is what I hate to say, if you really love those kinds of games and you want to play them day one with the updated rosters and everything, like, go ahead. Like, I don't like the trend, but if those are like the only games you play, and I do know I have friends like that, where like FIFA and Madden and 2K are like the only games they ever play, then yeah, you're probably going to find value in that. But to people like me, I don't really like that kind of stuff, so I'm not going to really be advocating for it for a lot. But it really is, and it really is where you have to bring in your own judgment whether you think it's worth it. So, I agree, it's a trend which I don't like. But, and honestly, for me personally, I'm usually going to be the person who's going to wait for it to go down in price because I never have an urge to play a game day one. But
yeah,
hey, that's just one person. You make your own decision.
True that. Okay, so I'll jump into my next one. I personally don't have a lot to say about it. I think me and Nick are both excited for the same game that he'll talk about after this. But this game is pretty cool too. It's called Psychonauts 2. This has been somewhat of a long-awaited game. I have a friend, I have a couple actually. There was a guy I used to know on YouTube, Tubby Moore, I don't know if you're out there anymore, that was obsessed with this game. It's so much content about the game. I remember every time I'd ask him what he's doing, oh, I'm playing Psychonauts. Oh, okay. So I know that the people that are into this game are really into this game. It is a fantastic, sort of kind of old school-esque 3D game. I liken it to games like Ratchet and Clank, or Nick was saying before, Battle for Bikini Bottom. It is very similar to those games in that it's sort of an open adventure-esque game. You travel in different worlds. You do a lot of 3D platforming. You have your own kind of unique weapon style. The difference, though, at least in how I feel about the game, is this one is a little bit of a creepier style of game. Typically, these games are very like lighthearted and open. Not that Psychonauts isn't. It's definitely like a rated E for everyone type game. But if you look at the characters in it, everyone looks kind of creepy. It almost reminds me of like the Addams Family in terms of kind of how it looks. Everyone kind of has those weird looking eyes. What they do is freaky. They're essentially going into people's minds and sort of exploring in there. And so like some of the worlds you'll see, you're like platforming on like people's teeth. And like you're walking on these giant like red platforms, which I don't know what you want to call it, but it's obviously like people's gums. It's like just kind of really creepy looking, but it's a cartoonish environment. And so I don't know, it's funny because it definitely just has that weird style to it, but again, it's just like Ratchet and Clank, and it's just like those style of games, just kind of in a more spooky setting. I definitely wouldn't call it a scary game, obviously. It's just kind of creepy, so again, like I said, you can think something like Jack Skellington, and Nightmare Before Christmas and stuff like that. So it's just a different theme of something that we've seen before, but I really like it because you don't see a lot of good games like this come out anymore. I remember Balan Wonderland was a game I was so excited for. Yeah,
that tanked.
Yeah, Nick's reaction, you can tell how that one turned out. It was a tragedy, and it was sad because I love those style of games. Yooka-Laylee was really cool. It's a little different than this, but it wasn't like phenomenal. So it's nice to see like games like Psychonauts, and Ratchet and Clank has been killing it. The new one is absolutely amazing. So,
I've been wanting to try it for a long time.
Oh, it is fantastic. All the Ratchet & Clank games are amazing. So it's just nice to see one that I know is a respected title. From the little previews I've seen that have come out that people have put up, it seems to be well received so far, and so I think it's going to be really cool, and I'm excited to kind of add another game like this to my arsenal because you don't see this too often, and I think it's cool, and I'm excited to see what it's like.
And one thing that's also important to mention about this game is if you guys did a little paying attention on the, I would say maybe like a year ago or like a year and a half ago or something, pretty much when Microsoft and Sony started taking away development studios to make exclusive games for their platforms. This was one of them, Double Fine. Double Fine is the people who made Psychonauts and Psychonauts 2, and it was acquired by Microsoft. So I just want to point out that this game is going to be it is going to be an Xbox exclusive besides PC. So it's going to still be on Steam and the Microsoft Store, but it is going to be an Xbox exclusive, which is kind of a rarity to talk about. But yeah. I will say in terms of a game series for Microsoft to get, I think Psychonauts is a great acquisition. I am curious to see how it's going to do because the original Psychonauts came out, I believe, on the OG Xbox, so it has been a while. And I know people that really... I guess the time will definitely tell to see if this game will get the same kind of audience, but people who played games back then might not be playing the same games nowadays. So yeah. I don't know. It's kind of cool. I always thought of cool things with the Psychonauts series. Actually, a good buddy of mine that I would go to Smash tournaments with, Max, his twin brother is a die-hard fan of Psychonauts too. So they're scattered around for sure. So there's people who are definitely really excited about this game.
Yeah. Well, and actually, here's something else I just looked up too. I didn't know this. This is a day one Xbox Game Pass game. So if you have Game Pass, you can try it for free, which is awesome. They do that so much, and I love that. So there's something else for you out there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Ready for the big kabowie? That's not a word. That was not even a word. I don't know why I said that.
I'm ready for the kabowie.
The kabowie time is now. Okay, Kena Bridge of Spirits. Holy shit. This game is by far one of my most anticipated games of the year, and I never expected it to be. I remember that there was a time when we were looking at game releases. I believe it was really early in the year, around March or February or something like that. And I saw this game, and I thought, okay, interesting name. Might as well look up some trailers on it, do a little research. And what I found is I don't want to say fell in love, but I got really intrigued right away about the kind of game that I was looking for. This is almost Pixar level when it came down to animation quality. So in terms of how vibrant the world was, the animation and the detail of the creatures and everything, all of that immediately jumped out to me from the first instant I looked at the trailer. And from there, it just kind of kept growing and growing and growing, and I started making comparisons from what I saw in the combat system to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Horizon Zero Dawn. More of kind of a Zelda game for sure, but I was really heartbroken to see that it got delayed, and it got delayed. And I feel like this is almost, I don't know the exact time, about 6 months from when I initially saw the trailer and when I believe it was the time it was supposed to release. And holy crap, the level of polish looks fantastic on this game. So I believe that's what they've been doing for this about half a year, and I think it's definitely worth it. But at its core, it is definitely a story-driven, kind of more of an action-adventure game. But what really won me over was the visual aesthetic and the way that they present the world. A lot of the times when you see a lot of different worlds, I mean, obviously when you had limited or you had worse hardware, you don't have the freedom to create the most outstanding open world systems. You have to there's certain things that need to render before things show up well in front of you. People would have certain fog effects, or they would hide things behind tunnels to be able to load an area or whatnot. So I always would look at open world games and think they were amazing, but I feel a lot of them lacked in, I don't want to say vibrancy because I don't think that's a word, but the way that the color looked and the first impressions you get is just a blast of color. And I saw it when I saw the Horizon Zero Dawn state of play. I saw it with Kena Bridge of Spirits. This game is colorful and it looks beautiful, but it definitely it's definitely not along the lines of those hyper realistic graphics like your Ghost of Tsushima or Horizon Zero Dawn. It definitely leans more towards the Breath of the Wild look. But yeah, if anything, I'm kind of blown away by the way the game looks. I really like the way they're presenting the story. For me, the last thing I really need to see is if I get into the gameplay, and if so, it could be a Game of the Year contender. This is one of the few games I'm letting myself get actually hyped for.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's funny because, like, up to this point, and I get there was a pandemic, so many things got delayed, but it's like, looking at the games that have come out this year, I guess, I don't know what my Game of the Year would be up to this point, but it's like, whatever it is, it's pretty loosely there. Like, nothing I've played this year is like, oh my god, this is the one. This is one of those games, like you said, that, like, to me, I feel like could be, like, the one. I'm just so into this style, and watching the trailer kind of gave me similar vibes, though I was into this more because this is more my style of game, to like the Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, where I'm like, a game that's cartoony should not look this amazing, but it does.
Yes.
And I prefer this over like the super realistic graphics, because there's just something special about this, because and I watched a video on it, like, about Final Fantasy 12, a little off topic here, but like the updated version that's super like realistic looking, where they try to go for that, like you mentioned, is like colorless and things blend in and nothing pops. I like that they're going for the style that like just feels alive. The world you walk in, the colors, kind of the lights and the embers that come off the enemies, everything just feels so lively and like passion filled, and I think that's what's going to make it really cool. And I just love the way the combat looks. It's a very fast paced style of combat, which I love. It kind of reminds me of a game that I've been dying to see the sequel for, and I don't even remember if it was canceled or not, but that's Beyond Good and Evil. Just kind of a game where when you fight fast. And Beyond Good and Evil is one of the most underrated games of all time, in my opinion. It is such a great game. And this one kind of reminds me of it. Very different settings and art styles, but at least in terms of the combat, I kind of get similar vibes. This one just feels really fast-paced, though, which is so cool. And then just kind of the whole like creativity with the rots. I know that's going to be so fun to like tinker and mess around with. So, like I said, it's hard. You know, I know you're hyped and I'm hyped for it. There's been a lot of games this year that have disappointed me. I'm really hoping this isn't one of those games, because, you know, Biomutant was good. It wasn't phenomenal. Like, I wouldn't say it disappointed me. But like I said, like with Balan Wonderland and like just stuff like that, there's just been a lot of things this year that I'm like, oh, okay, that wasn't as great as I wanted it to be. But I don't know, looking at the trailer in this game, it just looks like it was just made with love and heart, and it's beautiful, and the combat looks great. It's hard for me to imagine this game not being fun, but I've said that before.
Yeah. So yes, we'll definitely at least be cautious of it. Yeah. But another thing I did want to mention for sure is, and it of course is not the same thing, but when I was looking at the rot, it always reminded me of like the Punies from Chapter 2 of Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, on like how they kind of follow you around and help you out in certain situations. They can be kind of annoying if they get like stuck on like the corners and everything, but I always thought like that as a concept was really cool. Yeah. But yeah, I do like the way that, another thing I wanted to mention is I like the way that you're using your abilities to kind of like manipulate the environment in ways too. I think Breath of the Wild definitely had a heavy focus on, like, say for example, like the stasis on the rocks to be able to move them, like the magnesis to move it around. I think a lot of it, you are moving around like the environment in certain ways, but not like this. Like the abilities seem to be more nature-based and not as much like puzzle-based, at least from what I've seen. I don't know if that'll be the case, but either way, this is definitely a game that I've been I'll be like, I've really just let myself get excited for. There hasn't, and again, I've been in the same vein as Mike, where it's like I've had games that I really like that have come out this year, but overall they've kind of, there hasn't been that game that really, there's been one that's been close, but there hasn't really been a game that has like completely blown my mind where I was like, whoa, I really enjoyed this. I have to play the next game in the series like right away. Right. I have had, I would say the closest I've gotten this year was Nier Replicant, where I adored that game, and right now it's my winner for Game of the Year. But there hasn't been that game this year that actually blows my mind. There's usually at least one per year, so I guess we'll see if it happens. But hey, fingers crossed it's this one.
Yeah, hey, we'll see.
We will see. Yep. But that is going to do it for anticipated releases for, I still think it's August next. It's August next month, for sure. Yes. For August 2021. Please leave a comment if there's any of these games that you plan on getting yourself. If there's any that we talked about that you might also be excited for now, let us know. If there's any we missed, let us know as well. But otherwise, that is going to do it for us. I hope you guys all have a lovely day. Tell somebody you love them, and I don't know, have some delicious food. You deserve it.
And don't forget about Madden.
Yeah, and don't forget about Madden, best game in the world.